So you're thinking about moving to Georgetown, but you're wondering, is it the right place for you? Maybe you fell in love with the cobblestone streets, the quaint feeling, and the shops, but you're wondering about the traffic in Georgetown, and will there even be a place for you to park? Well, this video is for you. I make these videos about living in particular neighborhoods, talking about the schools, the traffic, the commute, and very importantly, the real estate, because so many of my clients reach out to me over a long distance, and it really helps them to get a feel for the neighborhood and the community that they're planning on moving to before they make a major commitment, such as purchasing a home or even renting in an area that they may not have been to before. In fact, these days, more and more people are purchasing, making offers, and signing a contract before they actually visit the home in person. So hopefully this video will help you make your decision easier. And if not for you, and you know somebody else interested in moving to Georgetown or nearby, please share this video with them, because it should definitely be helpful to them. All right, let's get into it. So here we are in Georgetown, and for your reference, we filmed all of this between 1 and 3 in the afternoon. So it is quite a low traffic time. There is a sort of steady flow of traffic along both M Street and Wisconsin Avenue, but the roads aren't as backed up in the neighborhoods as they do sometimes get. Speaking of which, to lay out the space in Georgetown a little further, the neighborhood is broken up into two parts, the West Village and the East Village, somewhat casually, and started out as a real estate designation for people to determine which side of the neighborhood you lived on. West of Wisconsin Avenue is the West Village, east is the East Village. The East Village is sometimes seen as more desirable. There are more stately homes, more expensive homes, and you are closer to the city. It's easy to get to DuPont Circle or downtown along M Street or K Street from the east side. The West Village is closer to Northern Virginia, Arlington, Foxhall, Palisades, and out to Maryland. The homes are typically more modest and cozy, and it is the side where Georgetown University and Georgetown Hospital are located. The West Village, around 34th and 35th, heading towards Key Bridge and out to Virginia, is where you get a lot of traffic in the neighborhoods during rush hour. Georgetown is cross-sectioned by M Street and Wisconsin Avenue, as we already briefly mentioned. And to the southern side of Georgetown, you have the Potomac River. K Street runs along here under the overpass, which is Whitehurst Freeway. We'll show you Whitehurst Freeway in a minute. So K Street, located underneath Whitehurst Freeway and along the Potomac, along the waterfront, does have some of the best parking in the area. A lot of parking lots, and you can be lucky enough to find yourself some street parking here. This takes you down to Rock Creek Parkway, which will take you out of DC, towards downtown DC, Foggy Bottom, the Watergate, the Monuments, Northern Virginia, in that direction. Or if you continue straight along K Street, this will take you right to DC's financial district, which is where many, many jobs are located that might be the reason for your move to DC. There are no metros in Georgetown. Many years ago, when the metro lines were being installed throughout DC, stations were planned based on having lots of homes or lots of jobs, and Georgetown wasn't seen as having either. They didn't plan metro stations to bring people to nightlife, shopping, and the like. Also, it would have to go under the Potomac or be far too steep of a grade, and at that time it just didn't make sense economically to have a metro, and people wish it did have one. This leads to the tough time parking and lots of traffic. I will say, if you want to have access to a metro, Georgetown's not necessarily out of the question. There are a few metro stations within a 15 to 30 minute walk. If you live in the West Village, you have Roslyn in Arlington, just across Key Bridge. And if you live in the East Village, you've got both Foggy Bottom and the DuPont Circle metro station stops. All that being considered, there are very reasonable buses throughout Georgetown. There is a hop-on, hop-off bus, which travels up and down Wisconsin Avenue, which can be very handy. I have not checked the prices in a while, but when I was spending a lot more time there, it was just $1 to get on, and then you can get off wherever you'd like to throughout the simple route through Georgetown. Here are some of those beautiful cobblestone streets that we were talking about earlier. This is O Street. There's really just a few. The major ones are O Street and parts of P Street. This is P Street, which takes you over to DuPont and to the metro station. It also takes you over Rock Creek Parkway. So this is another entrance or exit from Rock Creek Parkway. Rock Creek Parkway is amazing because it sort of cuts through the city. all the way from the waterfront to Maryland, through Northwest DC, passes the zoo, and things like that. Very beautiful road along Rock Creek Park. There are some limitations to traveling on it during certain times of day in a certain direction. The road really is geared to get people from Maryland into DC. So in Virginia, you can't use all of it going into DC in the morning or out of DC in the afternoon. That's all due to the fact that Marylanders have a little bit further to travel to get downtown. Whereas from Virginia, once you cross a bridge, you're right there in downtown DC. Which means you also have free use of the road if you're coming from Georgetown and going to downtown DC in the mornings and back home to Georgetown in the evening. I absolutely love Rock Creek Parkway. I can't tell you how many hours of my life, hundreds and hundreds of hours of my life, I have saved by using Rock Creek Parkway. And I feel like many people don't often think about it, so it's a really good route to factor into your daily routine if you can. And here it is, accessible by Georgetown. Here is Whitehurst Freeway, worth noting because it is a major freeway which skirts along the edge of Georgetown, making it easy for you to come across Key Bridge, go along Georgetown over to the East Village or to Foggy Bottom, or likewise come from downtown and make your way over to the West Village and to Foxhall and everything up that direction. Very convenient road, so at least some really fast routes to get around by car. This is the front of Georgetown University, wonderful top-tier private university. We all know the Georgetown Hoyas. There's also a wonderful medical school here and hospital. Quick shout out to my friend Dr. Sarah Qureshi, who works way too hard there. Speaking of schools, there are some fantastic schools in this neighborhood. No matter where you live in Georgetown, your children attend the same 3 primary schools. For elementary school, your children would attend Hyde-Addison Elementary School, which offers preschool starting at 3 years of age, has an 11-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio, and when looking at niche school ratings, all reviews by parents have given it 5 stars. Middle school students go to Hardy Middle School, which niche.com gives an A- teacher-to-student ratio at Hardy is 15-to-1. Any high school student living in Georgetown will attend MacArthur High School, which is a brand new building and just opened last school year, 2023 to 24. As a brand new school, does not have a lot of rankings and reviews online as of yet, but I will tell you that they have 10 plus athletic teams, 10 plus clubs and activities, a full range of AP courses that they're offering, NAF academies of engineering and IT, and they say a very robust arts program. So your high school students should have a lot to look forward to and participate in at MacArthur High School. Georgetown also has some really great private schools. You've got the Duke Ellington School for the Arts, is a private high school with special selection criteria, and nearby magnet schools, Schools Without Walls, the Stevens Early Learning Center, and Oyster Adams Bilingual School. Now, we all know Georgetown has places to buy stuff. Shoes, clothes, furniture, shoes. In fact, here we're passing by Katie's Alley, which is a design district full of furniture, lighting, kitchen, design, showrooms for all your interior design needs. We know Georgetown has clothing, shoes, jewelry stores, tons of restaurants. But to me, something that is very important is the grocery shopping. You need to know that your neighborhood has enough places for you to pop in and get your basic needs met. Georgetown happens to have quite a few grocery stores and markets. On the northern side of Georgetown, up Wisconsin Avenue, you have a Safeway, which has free underground parking, so it's very easy to access and get in and out of. And just north of Georgetown, a block or 2 away from that Safeway, there's both a Trader Joe's and a Whole Foods. There are a whole range of smaller markets spread throughout Georgetown, closer to M Street, even throughout the neighborhood on the smaller, quieter streets, if you want to pop in and grab a few things, such as Vital Vittles, Stachowski's Market, and Dent Place Market. There are so many amazing restaurants in Georgetown. Here we are driving by a few. There are so many more restaurants than I can touch on in this video. I'll just reference this article on Washington.org with the best places to eat in Georgetown. Shows you Nick's Riverside by the waterfront, and a lot of other great classic and modern places to visit in Georgetown. The Sovereign is really cool. It's tucked away in an alleyway right by the Riggs Bank, but you can even go by map here. So this article's great, and I'll put a link to it in the description below. Activities in Georgetown. There are tons of things to do. Many different parks to check out. There's Volta Park Recreation Center, which includes a pool and an off-leash dog park. There's in the grounds of Georgetown University. Of course, you have everything fun to do at the Georgetown waterfront, even if it's just taking a stroll. And there is a bike trail there as well, which will take you along the Potomac River towards the monuments. And the bike trail along Rock Creek Parkway. There's plenty to do in Rock Creek Park. There is Francis Scott Key Memorial Park along Key Bridge, and larger, more historic settings such as Dumbarton Oaks Park, Montrose Park, and Oak Hill Cemetery. And how could I forget the Georgetown Canal, which is another amazing place to walk and enjoy, maybe have a picnic by. You can actually check out and go on the canal boats when they're active. Another attraction is the Exorcist Stairs, which may be a one-time thing. You go see them, they were in the movie, that's great. But many people use them as part of their exercise routine. In fact, when I was in high school, some of the sports would bus us from Arlington to Georgetown to do the Exorcist Stairs. I did it with soccer occasionally, but our crew team did it regularly every single day. And if you're looking for activities to do on a special occasion, you can always explore historic homes, go on a waterfront cruise, visit Georgetown's The Old Stone House, seen here, so you can see what it was like for the earliest Georgetown residents. And there's pinstripes right along the canal near the Georgetown Indoors Mall, which is yet another option for your entertainment. But Pinstripes has everything, bowling, arcade, all sorts of stuff, but it's geared towards a more grown-up audience. Certainly take your kids there, but it's also a great place to have beers with your friends while you play bocce ball. We just touched on historic homes, and I do want to mention briefly what it can mean to buy a home in a historic neighborhood such as Georgetown. Historic homes in the district, and particularly in Georgetown, are what make DC such a beautiful city and preserved its vibrant architectural and cultural history through many generations. Established as a historic district in 1950 in Georgetown, if you would like to make an addition or modify your house in any way that could be quote-unquote seen from a public space, your plans will have to be reviewed by both the Fine Arts Committee and the Old Georgetown Board. A lot of homes in Georgetown also have historic easements on the property. And if that's the case on the home that you're looking to purchase, it will have a plaque, and it's either the Foundation for the Preservation of Historic Georgetown or the L'Enfant easement. And what this means is that that organization has a right to tell you whether or not you can move forward with your plans, even if they have already been approved by the Fine Arts Committee and Old Georgetown Board. So some additional steps there. In any case, if you are purchasing a home in Georgetown, and particularly if you're planning to make some upgrades or renovate, it is incredibly helpful to work with an architect that knows Georgetown and understands the regulations of this very particular historic district, and a home inspector that specializes in historic homes. And I can get you great references for those. Any realtor that understands the historic preservation rules should have them for you. And keep in mind, there are sometimes incentives for the restoration of historic homes in DC. Now, part of the fun of buying a historic home is learning about its historic significance. This also provides insight to its potential value and desirability. Georgetown was founded in 1751, so that is a very old neighborhood for this country. Georgetown is actually 40 years older than Washington, D.C., so it is very proud of its cultural heritage, maintaining its roots as a place where the nation's capital was planned and formed. Now, although Georgetown was developed many, many years ago, you do have some newer buildings, condos, and apartments along the waterfront. You have many historic homes throughout the neighborhood. Yes, there are some single-family homes, many row homes, but much of the waterfront was developed more recently in the 1960s and 70s, and even in the last couple of decades since the early 2000s. Some really great apartments and condos with really fantastic waterfront views, and a view of Whitehurst Freeway so you can see how traffic is before you get out. And for new developments, there's a great building they're transforming from an office and retail space into 28 new apartments along M Street, and they're building another new residential building along Pennsylvania Avenue. And on an even larger scale, they'll be building Georgetown West, which is a 10-story condo building including 70 condos, and a public park which will connect to Rock Creek Park. So that's pretty cool. And another very exciting new development that's coming soon to Georgetown is where the Key Bridge Exxon used to be. So if you are familiar with the area and have been here a long time, you realize that at one point about 6 or 8 years ago, a very convenient gas station just disappeared. Well, not quite. They just put a fence up and you couldn't go there anymore. I can't tell you how much harder it was for me to get coffee and gas in the mornings on my way to work for a few years there. But in any case, what is coming is definitely worth it. We don't have finalized plans yet, but what is coming is sure to be a great residential option. And there are some other new construction options throughout Georgetown. Please reach out to me if you'd like more details on those. You can always call, text, or email. So now let's talk about my favorite part, the real estate. Now, Georgetown has a very active real estate market. In fact, 12,800 residents and a size of just about 1.1 square miles. There are currently 45 active listings in Georgetown. Seems like a lot to me for a moderate-sized neighborhood. The average sales price over the last 4 months in Georgetown is just under $1.8 million, 1.791, which works out to about $1,036 per square foot. You can compare that to the DC average of $593 or the Northwest DC average of $674. Now, the average home sold over the same period was about 1,744 square feet. So you can keep that in mind to get an idea of how much space you're getting for your money there. Now, as far as the full range goes, I can tell you that right now there's actually a studio condo available now for $219,000 with a condo fee of $236. So pretty much anyone could get their foot in the door in Georgetown at that price. The housing prices in Georgetown really do span the gamut. You also have a couple of listings right now for single-family homes in Georgetown for over $15 million. One is this lovely home here, the notable historic Prospect House, right near Key Bridge with a 3-car parking garage. It once served as a White House guest house during the Truman administration and has had many famous guests over the years, including Robert Frost, the Shah of Iran, Presidents Washington and Adams, as well as the Marquis de Lafayette, and another stunning single-family home with a magnificent pool on the upper side of Georgetown near R.S. Street and Wisconsin Avenue, which was built in 1941. And with 7,000 square feet, you're only looking at a cost of $2,148 per square foot. Now, speaking of single-family homes, if we look at the average sales price over the last 4 months of single-family homes in Georgetown, it comes to just over $4 million. So you are paying quite a bit more to have your own 4 walls and yard all around. I would say just keep that in mind. Unless you're willing to spend between $3 and $15 million, you may want to think about the fact that you will most likely be purchasing a row home, which is very much like a townhouse that you see in other areas. However, in DC, because these row homes were built so long before they made things like HOAs, homeowners associations, and COAs, they don't have those monthly fees, dues that they do have in the HOA communities you see in newer areas. So it is very much a fee simple, no monthly fee for these row homes in DC. There are certain communities built more recently that maybe have parks and pools and tennis courts, such as Hillendale, which is just above Georgetown University and a very popular neighborhood because of its conveniences, secured gated community and pool and other amenities. Definitely worth checking out. Now, there will be an HOA there. Your 3 or 4 bedroom townhome there is going to range from about 1.9 to 2.2, slightly higher than the Georgetown average. Plus, you have an HOA fee due there as well, but it is nice to have the community amenities, including the pool. So active right now, there's about 10 or 12 listings for condos that are under $800,000. So for a row home in Georgetown, I'd say you could get into the game, buy a row home in Georgetown for about 1.3 to 2.2. 1.7 would be a great average, and it certainly is doable under 1.5. So with 1.7, well, it's 1.791, the average price in Georgetown. Let's take a look at some of the nearby neighborhoods so you can compare, maybe find an alternative if you want, or justify the Georgetown prices, however you want to see it. In Berkeley, to the west of Georgetown, you have an average sales price of $2.197, and because this neighborhood is primarily single-family homes, so very different than Georgetown's makeup, that works out to $693 per square foot. So a higher average price point, but a much lower average per square foot cost. And if we look at Cathedral Heights, a neighborhood long known for a little bit more of a reasonable range in real estate prices, There are a lot of co-ops here. We come to an average sales price of $655,000, which works out to $564 per square foot. So yes, much more reasonable. The average property size is 1312, so about 400 square foot less than the Georgetown properties. So here you're looking at more like a 1 to 3 bedroom rather than a 2 to 4 bedroom property that you were looking at in Georgetown. And many of these will have a condo fee. So even though you're only paying $655 for the property, it may be a co-op and it may be a kind of higher co-op fee. I have a video about that. If you have any questions about condo versus co-op and how the fees work, etc., and what it's better to buy, please check that out here. But there are a fair amount of co-ops there. And then I just sort of filtered Foggy Bottom and West End together because they are fairly comparable in property types and pricing. So just to get a nice average figure there. West End, Foggy Bottom, the combination average over the last 4 months comes out to just under $700,000, $698. And that works out to $661 per square foot. So a little bit more than what we just saw in Cathedral Heights. The square footage there though is an average of 992. So there we're looking at more of a tight two bedroom average. There are very little row homes in this area. It's mostly going to be condos. So as far as variety goes, Cathedral Heights, you may actually have a little more variety as opposed to Georgetown, which is mostly row homes and a significant amount of condos. Berkeley, which is almost all single family homes, and Foggy Bottom and West End, where you're mostly looking at condos. And to compare it to a nearby neighborhood that has a similar amount of notoriety, let's take a look at Kalorama, which is a beautiful neighborhood, also walking distance to DuPont. So between Georgetown and Kalorama, that's some of their key features. The average sales price there has been $1.964 million, and that is actually a price per square foot of $799. So that is about $240 less per square foot than it is in Georgetown. The average home size sold in Kalorama was 2288 square feet, so significantly bigger. It's about 500 more square feet than the average Georgetown sale was. Well, that makes it sound like a bit of a steal. The Kalorama neighborhood has had such notable recent residents as Ivanka Trump and Barack Obama and his family. Let's just do Cleveland Park. That'll give you a good idea of the options you have around and near Georgetown. And Cleveland Park, like West End and Foggy Bottom, are near metros, so that's a good comparison point. You can get to a metro pretty easily from Kalorama as well. So for Cleveland Park, we have an average sales price of just over $1 million, 1.027. The cost per square foot there is $639, and the average size is $1387. So on the slightly smaller side. This is because there are more condos there, but there's also a lot more single family homes. So I think the price balances out pretty well. Now, let me see, are we done talking? Have we said enough? We talked about historic homes, we talked about the real estate all around. Why don't we just say how much rent costs in Georgetown real quick. I am so happy they made it so that the maps like zoom into DC. It used to be like Pennsylvania or something random. I'm like, dude, really? I don't know. But now I can just go map and then it goes to DC instead of Pennsylvania. So happy. Makes my life so much easier. Okay, so why don't we just do 1 to 3 bedroom rentals and closed and see the results there. We don't want to factor in what a 9 bedroom rental costs. I mean, if you want that, that's totally cool. Call me. I'll get you the information. But I think this typical person watching one of my videos might want like a 7 bedroom rental, not a 9. But anyways, 1 to 3 bedroom rentals in Georgetown over the last 4 months average out to $45.24 per month. And the average size is 1,100 square feet. Okay, either way, if you're looking to purchase or rent in Georgetown, DC, or nearby, I am licensed in all 3 states, DC, Maryland, and Virginia. I am happy to help. Please don't hesitate to reach out. You can always call, text, or email. And just keep in mind, everything that we do on this channel is meant to make your move to the DC area easier on you. So please make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss something that could help. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in my next video. And since you made it to the end of this video, thank you for that. I have a feeling that this video would be great for you to watch next. Thank you and have a good rest of your day.